All right. Here we are with Nadya Tolokonikova, from a member of the feminist punk rock protest collective Pussy Riot. I'm so excited to have you on the Defiant podcast, Nadya. Thank you so much for joining me.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me.
So you have just like an incredible trajectory and history as a performance artist, leading, protesting for individual freedoms in Russia, fighting for your ideals and beliefs has, even taken you to prison. And now you're using NFTs and crypto as part of your tools in this art and in your expression. So before we get into how crypto falls into all of this, I'd love to get a bit of your background for listeners of the Defiant who might not know what Pussy Riot is, what it stands for, and how you came to start this movement. If you can catch us up on that.
I am in performance art since 2006. When I moved to Moscow, I was 16 years old. I moved to Moscow to study philosophy. And I did study philosophy for 5 years, but quickly I realized that it's important for me that words and deeds always come together. So I figured that it's not enough to just study ideas and to question things, but also it was important for me to actually take part in whatever was going on at the time in activist life. So I became involved in participating and organizing rallies and protests and smaller performance arts situations. I formed my first protest art group when I was 17. And then in a few years, I realized that it's not enough to just form an artist protest art collective. We needed to focus on girls and non-binary people because we would always be in the shadow of any male with who would appear. And it doesn't actually matter how much merit you have, how smart you are, how actually even if you actually lead the project, if you appear with a male, most likely, leadership is going to be attributed to them. And sometimes even they don't want that to happen as well. Sometimes they just fall in this stereotype as well. So we decided to start all girls and non-binary people collective that we call Pussy Riot. And one of the reasons why we started it, besides wanting to focus more on underrepresented people, we wanted to fight Vladimir Putin. He's the president of Russia for 20 plus years, and he is an extremely unpleasant human being. He kills people when he feels like it. He puts his political opponents to jail, and he's a homophobe, transphobe, and misogynist. Pretty much all. He's not a good character to rule my country because my country is amazing. So he announced that he's going to be the president for the third time without actually asking people what they think about it. And it was in the end of 2011. And I couldn't sleep or eat or breathe for 3 days. I was like in a state of permanent panic attack because I realized that I have to do something about it. And I figured that I have to do something with art because this is what I know how to do the best. This is my strong feature. And I feel like in activism, you always have to pick up something that suits you. Because a lot of people believe that there is just one face of activism. Like you have to go to a rally, but if you're not comfortable with that, you don't have to. You can just pick something that you're good at and use it for achieving your goals. So I picked art, and me and a couple of my girlfriends we started Pussy Riot, which is a feminist protest art collective. We performed all around Moscow. It was guerrilla art actions on the streets. We wanted to bring our music and bring our art to people who have not heard of us before, and that's why we didn't want to perform in venues or festivals. We wanted to perform in front of people unexpectedly, just breaking the fabric of traditional normal life. And in 6 months after us being really active and being arrested like on a daily basis, we perform in subway stations. There is no there's no way that we can run from the subway station where they run. So we would be arrested for 5-10 hours, sometimes a day, but it never was so serious. And then after 6 months, I think we really got on their nerves, and the government decided to really lock us up, and they put us in prison for 2 years. And that's how we became internationally known, and we became Times Women of the Year, all the guardians of the world and guardians, and I don't know, all the traditional big media that were writing about us a lot. So that's how we actually gained bigger platform. And I was like, oh my God, how can you be so stupid and to put us in jail to actually give us the voice that we have right now? And we use it for good. They built a successful media company that runs in Russia and Ukraine and Belarus. We have more than 50 people working at this media company full time, and
a lot of media
zona. Right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Most of my friends, even they're surprised that they don't know, because the language barrier, people can't learn about it. But we are actually, in fact, going to be more successful media moguls than Donald fucking Trump.
Yes, do it. Amazing. Okay, so this incredible experience of protesting after Putin was elected for months and then landing in jail. After this specific protest on the Orthodox church, right, in Moscow, that's kind of what got you in jail ultimately.
It's not exactly an Orthodox church. It's more like a trade center. You can buy gold, you can buy icons, and they don't have to pay taxes. So at some point in the 90s, they were actually selling alcohol and cigarettes because they didn't have to pay any taxes. And so that's how current patriarch of the Russian Orthodox Church, he built his capital, and now he's one of the richest guys in Russia.
So this experience of landing in jail for your beliefs and for protesting, did that change your attitude against authority at all? Did it make you more careful? Did it make you more fearful when protesting, or was it the opposite? How did things change after that? I would assume very traumatic moment of being in jail for 2 years.
It definitely made me tougher. It made me more convicted. I would do absolutely the same if I could. In 2012, I'd just repeat the same performance. I think I would not trade my life for any other life. It's unique. It's fucked up in a way. Definitely heavily traumatized. I'm in antidepressants, and I changed a million therapists and read 1,000 books on depression, trying to figure out how I can get out of it. It's really difficult. I still have dreams. Like yesterday, I was sleeping in a nice bed, or a nice blanket, or a nice pillow. Everything was good, but I was dreaming about being put in jail again. And that's what happens with me, almost on a regular basis, a couple of times a week. And then I wake up and I remind myself, no, it's okay, I'm not in jail. And it takes a toll on everyone's mental health to be locked up, because unfortunately our current penitentiary institutions, pretty much everywhere in the world, they're not down for helping people, for correcting people's behavior, for reintroducing them to society, for giving them a helping hand. Because most of those people, they just what they need help. I'm not saying about everyone, that there are really legit bad people who wants to kill someone else, and that's they legitimately have to be separated from society. But most of the people who ended up there for things like self-defense, it's often when it comes to women, a lot of women, they end up in jail because they are trying to defend themselves from domestic violence, and they were victims of domestic abuse for dozens of years, and finally they decided to protect themselves, and it lands them to jail for 10 years. And after that, their life is destroyed. Their health, physical health and mental health is destroyed. It's incredibly sad to watch. And another big reason why women end up in jail is addiction. And instead of being treated as a disease, it's being punished. And same thing. So a lot of girls who I met there, they were HIV positive, and unfortunately in jail they're not being provided with adequate medication, so it's terrible for their health, and some of them are dying, and it was really difficult to not even for myself, but actually to watch all of this sad stories of people with their lives being broken by the system, like going through me, and knowing that I can do so little about it. So, but also that anger and that rage and the sadness and trauma that I got made me much more convicted, like much more convinced that I have to try to change it, right? And we started an organization that helps prisoners right after we got out of jail, and when we were inside of the prison, we made hunger strikes and wrote open letters and trying to change the system from within, which we actually did. And now my ex-prison warden, who is responsible for building a slave labor system in my colony, he was convicted himself. Unfortunately, not real term. It's just probation, but he lost his job and he lost his social status. And thanks to me, and I can be more happy. I made it a goal of my life to punish those men who are rude, who are committing, who commit wrong actions towards women, especially. So it made my art more radical, I think. So pretty much like they achieved the opposite of what they wanted.
Right. It's incredible how your story demonstrates that individuals can make a difference. Like you can make a difference through your actions, and through your, through protest and through art. And speaking of art, like what does art have? What's the role that you see in these actions? Because from the outside, it seems like art is something that is so peaceful and kind of ethereal and emotional, and maybe you wouldn't assume that it can have like real consequences on politics, or enact any sort of change. But of course, you've kind of your experience says something different. So I'd love kind of your thoughts on that.
I separate micropolitics and macropolitics, but not in a way how it's usually separated in political science, but I have my own distinctions. So micropolitics is everything that affects our behavior on a daily basis, like everything that forms us, forms our personality. And, art that we consume, and culture we live in, it's a big part of it. It influences us, not just influences us, it informs us as individuals, and it creates our identities on a daily basis. And so that's why identity politics became such a big thing lately, because I think more and more individuals, they're understanding the importance of, these cultural influences on who we are. And we understand that, it's like we're not set in stone for once and for all. Once we're born, like we're actually so flexible, and as human beings, in our psyche and our like perception of ourselves and our role in the world are changing every day. And I feel like politicians, they have a little word to say, really, like mostly about our perception of us as individuals, unless they're really awesome and charismatic, which happens rarely. But most of the time, people who influence us are people who create our movies that we watch, and who create package for cereals that we consume. And I think it's like incredibly important as cultural signifiers that we surround ourselves with. So I'm just like one drop in this ocean of culture, but I hope that I can inspire some people to become more inclusive and encourage gender bending perceiving gender roles as something that was not given once and for all, but rather than something that we can play with as fun instruments. I hope that I can encourage people to be more kind to each other and strong, but at the same time accept our vulnerabilities. So I feel like this is Pussy Riot's role in life. And my personal biggest influences were always artists or philosophers, not really politicians, maybe activists, but like look at 1968, the movement that so basically it was a cultural moment all across the globe. But personally, on me, the biggest influence created students and philosophers and artists in May 1968 in Paris. And growing up was really looking up to them, and also to that big cultural moment, cultural shift of paradigms, literally revolutionary shift of paradigms that happened in the beginning of the 20th century, all across the globe again. And especially for me, it was important was what's happening in Russia with avant-garde movement. And their passion to change the world and make it a better place, it was something that fired me up and made me decide that I want to become an artist. And hoping to pass it to next generations, the biggest reward to me of all my activity was, meeting younger feminists and LGBTQ plus activists who come by to me when they see me at the concert or somewhere else, and they're telling me that because of Pussy Riot, we actually came out of closet. We made our first feminist action, and it was not someone who sits in the parliament, wasn't the president, was not the UN consular. It was actually just an everyday person like me. And sometimes we become cultural icons like Greta Thunberg. She didn't mean it, but she became one, and she drives so many people.
Yep. So why decide to use NFTs as part of this tool to, be a part of the culture and be a part of this conversation and movement?
It became pretty organically. It came to my life organically because I always love to learn about tech, because I think looking back in 1917, I was learning how they made a revolution, and I'm not a fan of Bolsheviks because they destroyed so many things that are dear to my heart, like Russian religious philosophy. It had to totally disappear because of their cultural course. But you want to be effective. You learn how people done it before, and the first thing they did, they captured all means of communication, which at the time was post offices and telegraphs. So these days, in order to capture means of communication, you need to go digital, because to coordinate on larger scales, on the global scale, you need to be. You need to know your digital tools. So, learning about NFTs and learning about crypto and possibilities gives beyond just what's really exciting for me is possibilities that crypto gives beyond monetarily applications, because I think there are people who know much more about finances and much more fluent in this financial language than me. It's not my role. I don't mind to have money. I don't mind to give money to my community. But honestly, bottom line, me and finance is, I don't know. But I like things that you can build on top of crypto, on top of blockchain. And I had an incredible conversation with Vitalik Buterin. He totally blew my mind. He's the founder of Ethereum, and we talked about how we can build better democracy using blockchain, how we can build voting systems, and how we can raise money using blockchain technology. And so that makes my heart fire up as an activist, because I believe if we combine our passion and our ideals with tools that NFT and crypto provide, then we can be truly unstoppable. If we separate it, then it's not going to look good for activists, because know a lot of activists are trying to stay away from tech because, and I get their reason. It's dominated by monetarily driven, mostly white, rich men. And those are not who I see myself hanging out with on a daily basis. So when I was about to step in the game, I checked myself a million times. Like I didn't sleep again for 3 days. I was just like, okay, do I really want to do that? But I decided if I want to change the game, I have to step in and just bring members of my community and make it much more inclusive and diverse. And I think it's happening. Like the last NFT week that we spent in New York, I think it showed me a lot of like the imperfections that we still have to work on in like as a community. But I had so many conversations with people who are, including white rich guys who are just like after me being like just like screaming in their face for 7 days in a row, being like, you have to change it, and they're like, okay, yeah, we have to change it. So like people are getting convinced. Like someone is faster, someone is slower, but ultimately, I think this is a tool, and it's really important which ethic we apply when we use this tool, because I'm not a technocrat in a sense that I do not believe that tech itself, tools itself, themselves will bring you to a better world. You always have to combine strong ethics and tools.
I love that vision. And so I'm thinking, Pussy Riot is a collective that anyone can join, like open, and it just like sounds a lot. Yeah, open source. It sounds a lot like a DAO. It has like that connection to crypto. Yeah. So I'm wondering if that's kind of what you're thinking for Pussy Riot in the future. Like, do you think it can become more like a DAO?
I was joking with my friends that we were the first DAO before DAO existed. Mm-hmm. I'm part of several DAOs, including Blizzard DAO, and it's really, really interesting to see how rediscovering this ancient Greek democracy approaches and trying to apply them in the modern world and to effectively scale it, and like all kinds of problems that we encounter while we do that. For example, like as easy as voter turnout, and we see it a lot with Blizzard DAO. Like a lot of people are busy, like they're legitimately busy, so they don't have time to read the propositions and actually take their time to go in and sign and vote for someone. So we're trying to figure out like how we actually make this direct democracy work. And so far I'm just like I'm part of other DAOs, and I'm just learning curve. Mm-hmm. But I feel like at some point I would love to have this Riot DAO. But what's important for me is like not rushing and making sure that things are happening at the right time. But I think it doesn't make sense for us at some point.
Very cool. Can you talk about more about your NFT itself? Like, I love the story behind it.
Yeah. Well, I made 3 drops so far. The first one was in the beginning of March. Happened on Foundation, who I love dearly. They're really lovely and supporting to artists. My first ever drop, one of one, generated 100 ETH. I was overwhelmed with support, and so that's how I entered. Basically, I just entered, received 100 ETH, spread them around all creators who were part of this video, and we felt really happy and supported. And also we decided to make sure that we're giving back to the communities and started to buy works of other artists and like establish like different programs that won't help people to onboard in the NFTs, especially like women and non-binary people. So that was the beginning. And then I decided to just be silent for a second. So I was learning, I was talking to different artists and traveling to places like Miami Bitcoin conference, which was not particularly about NFTs, but I met a lot of NFT people over there. And that's how I met Blizzard DAO. And, I talked with Justin Aversano and Beeple and Olive Allen. And, a museum. Women of crypto art and Web3 baddies were using non-binary community of NFT artists and collectors and developers. So I was just like, I have to shut up for a second and learn, actually. Mm-hmm. So that period lasted for the full summer. And then I came back with a drop that was called Virgin Mary Please Become a Feminist, which was my one of ones that I released on Super Rare. And it was built on top of my prison sentence, which was a big emotional moment for me. Yeah, as you can imagine, my sentencing papers not my favorite thing in the world. So I decided to apply some nice and welcoming and warm and just cute images on top of it to balance it and make it less dramatic to myself. So it was one of one, and then almost at the last second, I decided to create a collection because I faced an ethical dilemma. I do represent a movement, but when I sell one of one, I cater just to a really specific group of people who happen to have a lot of ETH on their hands for whatever reason. They might be amazing individuals, but they're not the only people who I want to cater. So I decided to make a collection because I wanted to make it more accessible. And so the minting price was 113.12 ETH, which was like around $400. And so right now it's around 2 ETH. At some point it was 8 ETH. So if someone decided to sell it with 8 ETH, they would generate a lot of money. And that was my thinking. I want to create money for members of my community. And by the way, disclaimer, if you want to sell my NFT piece, I'm not going to be mad at you. I know that some people that are getting like weird and strict about it, like when you sell their personal NFT pieces. So I'm just happy if you make money by buying, minting my artwork or holding it for a while and selling. Go for it. I love you.
Nice. And then are you planning anything new? Like, are you working on other NFT projects, or kind of what's coming up?
I do. I'm making, so these are just, oh no, the Kremlin.
Oh no. Oh, there we go. Okay.
Oh, there you go. Oh, just like some sketches that we'll going to transform later into actual pieces.
Nice.
So we were working on something with Gremlin, who created cryptos, and he's a co-creator of Nouns, and he's an extremely lovely person. He's such a great supporter, and I'm supporter, and he's supporter as well. So we just like have this great union of kind souls, and we're working on this collection together. It's going to be limited supply. I think I'm not going to tell you the number yet, but I have it in my mind. It's not going to be a lot. It's going to be under 1,000. And everyone who owns ACAB piece, like my Genesis collection, they're going to have a mint pass to mint this Pussy Riot Gremlin collection. Oh, and also ACAB, like I really love to take care of holders of ACAB, and I'm hanging with them on Discord. We have their gated channel. We have Telegram groups. I'm inviting them to concerts if I perform. That was happening during the NFT week in New York. They were invited to my Friends with Benefits concert and Dreamverse exhibition that I was taking part of, organized by Metacurse. So this ACAB collection is going to be keys for our next few bigger collections. And after Gremlin drop, we're planning early next year a drop that's called Big Dick Girls. And we're going to play with different ages. And so like here you saw a baby girl, because they're also tough motherfuckers, and they actually, they say fight like little girls. They really know how to fight. So you better not get in their way. So and my plan is to make the oldest ladies the most rare, so they're going to be the most valuable, and everyone would want to have an old lady.
Oh, how nice! And why? Okay, and I'm conscious of your time. I don't know if you have to drop now. Or
we can do the last question and.
All right. Okay. Okay. So how do you tie all these kind of NFT experiments back to kind of trying to enact change in Russia? Like how do you think this can make an impact on kind of your original goal with Pussy Riot and with protest?
Financing the revolution. This is like what Putin ultimately is afraid of, because he's trying to cut all the resources. He prohibits local business and businesswomen from donating any money to for the sake to activist causes, and even individuals. But individual donations are being investigated sometimes as well, because they call you a terrorist organization, like Alexei Navalny, who is the second biggest politician in Russia after Vladimir Putin, who was poisoned last year, almost murdered. He's in prison now. He's my great friend. And his organization was just labeled as a terrorist organization. So effectively, if you donate to this organization from Russia, you're labeled as a supporter of terrorism, which is not good for you. And you can get your bank account frozen, you can end up in jail. So money definitely really helpful, but also everything that I touch here and in my art pieces, it comes back to Russian reality. I just made a drop during ComplexCon. It was called Eden, 66 Utopias. And the main image is the Kremlin wall, and I'm writing different slogans, including Matriarchy Now, ACAB, Big Tech Girls, Fuck Your Sugar Mommy, Putin has to go on this wall, and it was a big success. So it was sold out in 10 seconds. So I can see that actually this narrative is being supported by so many people internationally, and yeah, it somehow all works together really nicely.
I love this. I think like this is what crypto is meant to do. You know, it's a way to find an alternative system to have an alternative to the centralization of power, to authoritarian regimes, this kind of global network to transfer money. It started that way with Bitcoin, but now NFTs are being also a global way to transfer culture. And so I love seeing that how, you know, you started out with kind of this movement using art to protest, and now crypto is giving you another tool to do this on maybe a more global scale. So I think it's a really kind of inspiring and empowering story. So thank you so much for taking a bit of time to share with me.
Thank you so much.